And welcome back to America's Hope. I'm talking to Yvonne Lewis, and she is a licensed professional therapist. She's based in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I must say that I love Tulsa. I went to college there many years ago, and every time I visit there, I always have this love for Tulsa. And what was life for you like growing up in Tulsa and then becoming one of the top anchors, news anchors in your other profession in Tulsa?
I love Tulsa. I loved growing up in Tulsa. Went to high school here and went to Rogers High School. Most of people here went to Booker T. Washington. And I always just had a love for the city. And I got into television because I always wanted to be a doctor, really. I wanted to help people on some level. But I remembered my high school art teacher. I was a senior in high school, and he would always do this. And he would say, "I just see you on Channel 8. I see you on Channel 8." And, I just discarded that. But once I got to college and I said, I don't know if I want to be a doctor. It takes a long time and all of these things. And so then I entered the television. So it made my, family, of course, really proud. I spent 27 years at Tulsa's Channel 8. And then God just called me away and said, okay, whether you're under contract or not, I need you to step away from your job. And I'm going, I don't think this is God talking to me, but it was. And so, yeah. Then I went, then I got a Master's of Divinity and then another master's degree in counseling. So,
Wow.
my roots are very deep here.
What turned you to counseling people in the midst of trauma?
So counseling really came about because when I was weekend anchor at Channel 8, I always just thought of myself as delivering the good news on Sunday. And so people would stop by my desk all the time, Kelly, and ask, for advice and things. And I would just give them, godly, sound advice. And because I knew that was a gift, and then God has given me a gift of healing anyway, it just made sense that I became a counselor. And then my friend, my pastor's wife, she's a counselor, and she was like, Yvonne, you would really be good. And I just went in one ear and out the other. But it was at a church service that someone saw me and said, I really think you should be a counselor. And so that was confirmation. And then it's really interesting because I always thought of, meeting people on stories is kind of superficial because you have to make those connections really, fast, and then you leave and then you're off to the next story and they're calling and, wanting connection. And so I just didn't like that abruptness of a superficial kind of relationship. And I wanted to always go deeper to help people. And so it made sense that I became a therapist. And then I just got into trauma because I saw that the profession was moving more towards helping people heal. And that's how I ended up doing trauma work.
Well, Yvonne, you're speaking in my lane there in my heart because, like you, as an anchor and as a reporter, I'm constantly upset and agitated and aggravated by the bad news in the world. When I realize there's good news that you can provide for people, and it becomes like a righteous indignation or a holy frustration that if I'm not careful can cause me trauma. So I'll be calling to get counseling from you. But when you see people go through pain, you obviously want to reach out and touch them, as that great song, reach out and touch somebody's hand, make this world a better place if you can. And I'm glad you shared that personal experience with us. And there in Tulsa, many people know about the Tulsa, and we're going to make a dramatic switch here to history. Was the famous historian John Hope Franklin said, in order to deal with your present, you've got to know your past. And I'm paraphrasing him here. But the past in Tulsa was the Tulsa Race Massacre. And I know a lot of people in modern Tulsa and throughout the United States are saying, can we dispense with talking about that ugly chapter in our lives? Can we dispense with talking about slavery or Jim Crow or or some of the other painful birth defects that we've had as a nation. But yet, it can cause trauma even in our present. How do you find healing when you have this history and you know that people are finding a path forward, but there's still this lingering doubt that may induce trauma?
That is the generational trauma that, I was speaking about before. It's going to show up. It's going to show up. And so when we see images that happen in our news, those can be very triggering to people who've had generational trauma that's unhealed. So those images of, you could be watching something from the civil rights movement, and that can be triggering because, then you see the race massacre. Any of those things can be just a landmine of triggers for people who have not done some work to heal from the trauma, whatever that is. It's going to continue to show up. Often I see issues of judgment, shame, criticism, rejection, abandonment. Any of those are like some core issues that people deal with that I see across the board. So anything that can trigger those issues is going to keep coming up, and then that's why we see people so angry now. I was in the store yesterday and just making a return, and the lady was very mean, and so I'm always trying to unpack what happened to that person to make them respond in that way. So when we don't look at the past, Kelly, we have to look at the past in order to heal. And so when people say, oh, that's so long ago, you need to get over it and just move on, you just move through it. That is not the solution. It will never be the solution. We have to go back to the source of the pain. What happened to you? What happened to the people in your generation in order to heal?
What's your message to America today about how we hold on to hope and joy and faith and love to break through the divide and to break through the trauma? I mean, it requires a longer session, but for right now, good doctor, what's your medical advice or your psychological advice to help people today?
What I would say, Kelly, is to find moments, and I'm going to say teeny tiny moments of gratitude, just of gratitude, just of gratitude. Think of something that you are grateful for. And then think of another thing that you're grateful for. And then think of another thing that you're grateful for. And I'm going to tell you that the situation is going to change. I'll give you an example. So I went to the post office one day and the lady was in a very bad mood, and I knew her name. So I was talking to her, and she ends up telling me some things that were going on when she found out it was a counselor. And I just thought I need to help change the mood, because here's a person in customer service and she is upset. Okay. So a guy comes in and he was smiling, and I said, hey, what are you smiling about? And he said, I'm going home. And I said, name 9 other things that you're grateful for. And he started naming them off. And as he was naming them off, she started responding and laughing. And it changed the whole atmosphere. So what am I saying? Think of ways that you are grateful. Think of ways that you can point out. And if you see someone and they have a smile on their face, hey, what are you smiling about? What do you think? Name 5 things you're grateful for. So that can help change the atmosphere at the family gathering this holiday season.
That's good, Yvonne. That's good. You got to be grateful for every day, for the air in your lungs to breathe. You got to be grateful. Great advice. Final question. I mean, I could talk to you longer, but final question. What's your hope for America?
My hope for America is healing, and that people will recognize the need for mental health counseling. And everyone needs a counselor, everyone. Even I have a therapist. And I always tell people, as you're looking for a therapist, the first question you should ask is, do you have a therapist? You want someone who is healthy, who is helping you navigate life. And that is what gives me hope that it's possible.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. You talked about grateful. Grateful for you being on this program today. Thank you, Yvonne Lewis. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Kelly.
We're coming back with more in just a moment. And welcome back to America's Hope. I'd like to thank our guests for choosing to talk to me about some very important topics that we need to be more upfront and open about. And that's trauma, it's grief, it's mental health. My thanks to Dr. Portia Lockett as well as licensed therapist Yvonne Lewis. Look, both of these ladies have narrowed it down to one thing. You've got to be able to talk to somebody. You have to seek therapy and not be embarrassed about it, but actually understand that it can help you grow internally and then express love externally. This holiday season, may it be rich with joy, love, and happiness, even in the midst of pain. May you have a breakthrough and let hope prevail. Until next time, God bless.